The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Spine Pain Management, Inc. Second Quarter 2004 Investors Webinar Conference Call. Before we get started with our panelists, let me take a moment to familiarize new attendees to the webinar console that you should be seeing if you're attending online right now. Anytime you can click on the arrow to the left of the console to hide the console. But before you do any hiding, please be sure to click on either telephone or mic and speakers, depending on whether you're using your telephone to listen in or whether you're using your computer mic and speakers. If you desire to use your computer exclusively, use the mic and speakers. Okay, the conference call is an interactive, giving you the opportunity to pose questions. However, to do this, you must type in your question in the box, enter question for staff that you'll see down here towards the bottom. You can use this box at any time during the presentation, but all questions will be held until the formal presentation when the Q&A portion starts. Questions will be put in the queue and answered in the order received, though some repetitive questions may be eliminated. With this said, let me now turn over the call to John Bergeron, Spine Pain Management's Chief Financial Officer, to read the required disclosure statement.
Thank you, Art. This presentation includes forward-looking statements as determined by the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, the SEC. All statements, other than statements of historical facts included in this presentation that address activities, events, or developments that the company believes or anticipates will or may occur in the future, are forward-looking statements. Such forward-looking statements involve known and unknown risks, uncertainties, and other factors which may cause the actual results, performance, or achievements of the company to be materially different than any future results, performance, or achievements expressed or implied by such forward-looking statements. Such factors include general economic and business conditions, the ability to acquire and develop specific projects, the ability to fund operations, healthcare service demands, changes in healthcare practices, government regulation, and other factors over which the company has little or no control. The company does not intend and is not obligated to update publicly any forward-looking statements. The contents of this presentation should be considered in conjunction with the warnings and the cautionary statements contained in the company's recent filings with the SEC. Now I'd like to introduce you to Dr. Bill Donovan, our founder.
Good afternoon. This is Dr. Bill Donovan. I want to welcome you to our Q2 2014 conference call. Thanks for taking time to be part of this call. The purpose of our presentation today is to, number one, present the Q2 numbers. We'll want to compare with the Q2 2013 and, in particular, Q2 14 to Q1 14, and we'll explain that more. And we'll give you an update on the company development. And I want you to remember you're going to learn about video integration systems. We have two new members of the company that I'll be introducing, Mike Smith and David Spencer, and you'll see where they fit into our mission and development. For the new investors who are on this call, Spine Pain is a technology-driven financial services, medical device, and healthcare solutions. We deal with doctors who treat liability spin injuries. We have developed some proprietary technology, that being the quad video halo, which we'll refer to as QBH, and it's really the center point of the new video management systems that are being developed by Mike Smith and David Spencer. And you'll understand why these two people are now part of the company. Next slide. Everyone is familiar. This is a fairly newer slide of what we're talking about, the quad video halo. But essentially in healthcare now, we're dealing with visually based technology and diagnosis. Everything is going to a visual-based type presentation. We felt this for a while, That's why we have spent a lot of time, effort, and money developing the quad video. But we're now going to take this to a video management system where this integration is going to be critical, and it includes just not the arena that we're working this now. Next slide. A quick summary of the company. We presently have 3 affiliated doctor groups that we deal with. Our shareholder equity is a little over $5 million or 28 cents a share. The number of outstanding shares is 18.7. Inside ownership is 33%. And the market capitalization is $5.5 million. We have about 670 beneficial shareholders. Next slide. I feel that we're at an inflection point right now. If you remember, when we had the Q1 call, we talked about, as of January 2014, we shut down our relationship with the centers in Florida and the center in McAllen, Texas. In effect, these changes in January of this year reduced our potential income 70%, the revenue. So it obviously was a significant hit to the company, but I felt that it was necessary to do so that we could move forward. Also in that last conference call, I told them we were doing additional due diligence to expand into new markets with expanded services. We're working with some other doctors on some very unique and exciting type of services. In June of this year, we worked with a new affiliate in Odessa, Texas, and it appears to be very positive at this stage. In addition, the centers in San Antonio and Houston showed a significant increase in cases and of about 153% in Q2 over Q1 in 14. When we do a year-to-year comparison, so Q2, 13, and 14, even though we lost 4 centers, we effectively have made up that lost ground, and we're basically flat. We anticipate an upward trend in the core business, plus these new types of services that we're looking at. Next slide. When we talk about changes, we're talking about software updates and technological advances. This is going to explain why David and Mike have joined the company. We're developing a robust VMS platform that's going to go into many different areas of the medical and legal community. We've been very pleased to interview and hire Michael K. Smith. And Mike has a particular interesting background. In 2006, at Stryker Corporation, which is a terrific orthopedic company, they started developing a thing called video integration. That is, guys like me in the operating room, we were using various types of cameras, but it was really haphazard. In 2006, Stryker started really getting involved with video integration. It happened to be the same year when Mike got involved with Stryker. So Mike brings with him a history of video integration that was actually started in 2006. And I think, and Mike will talk about this, and you can ask him questions. I think back in 2006, most people said, oh, this is kind of crazy, we don't need this. This is no different than in 1975 when I started doing arthroscopic surgery. People thought this was stupid. Why would anyone do an operation through a scope? Well, obviously, things have changed. So I think there's a nice comparison of how things happen in medicine. And Mike was right at the beginning. Most recently, he was with FSN Medical Corp, which is a terrific company. And they're not only a pioneer, but a world leader in video signal management, distribution, and displays. This is right where we are. And we met Mike at a meeting, and we had follow-up meetings, we had follow-up interviews, and he now has brought a whole list of areas that we can apply this new VMS platform. In addition to Mike, I needed the technological expertise. And this is where David Spencer is coming in, and we're going to talk more about these two people. I'm now going to turn over, everybody wants the numbers. So here's John Bergeron, CFO, and he'll give the numbers that have been reported today.
Thank you, Dr. Donovan. As on slide 9 basically states, I won't go through everything, but I wanted to show you, based on our decision to close down or stop our affiliations with the Florida and the McAllen things, you'll notice that the revenue is pretty much on par. It's flat. The cost of sales is a little bit higher in 2014 because we had a little bit different service mix. You'll also notice that we lost $153,000 for the quarter, but it should be noted that $114,000 of that is non-cash charges. If you'll go to slide 10, please. One thing I want to highlight on this is the difference in the revenue between Q2 and Q1. We had a 156% increase from Q1 to Q2 14. We went from $334,000 to $859,000 of revenue. Go to the next slide, please. This is the condensed balance sheet. The thing I want to stress to you is look at our current ratio. We have a 4.3 to 1 of current assets to current ratio. We think this is current liabilities, excuse me. We think this is a very strong financial balance. And our shareholders' equity is a little over $5 million, and we expect to continue to build on this balance sheet. For a complete listing of all the financial statements, please see our 10Q, which was listed today. It will have the statement of the changes in financial position, also in addition to the balance sheet and the P&L statement. It'll also have quarter and year-to-date numbers. Next slide, please. With that, I'd like to give the conference call back to Dr. Donovan.
What we're showing on this slide are the total cases and total procedures from the beginning in 2010 to the end of Q2 2014. The procedures and the cases continue to increase, and we feel that we're going to, with some new procedures that we're working on, hopefully can increase the angle of the growth. Next slide. When we compare cases to collections, we now have collected over $9 million on 1,425 cases, 1,425 cases. We still have 2,427 cases open. Since inception in late 2009, 2010, we've had failure on 75 cases where there was no collection. Next slide. During Q2 14, our average case settled for a little over $6,500. Since inception, the average settlement has been $6,545. So essentially from the beginning through Q2, the case settlements are about the same. At the end of Q2 14, we still have over 2,400 cases awaiting final settlement. I think if you go back and think about from the beginning, we've raised a total of about $3 million through various debt structures. But that $3 million has already resulted in $9.33 million in cash collections from the 1,425 cases. There is strong evidence for the cash flow potential in this business model. Next slide. I want to talk about our future value, the shareholder value. We have to take this technology and make it into a better platform servicing a much larger market, both in the medical field and the legal field. And we're going to talk about this. We're getting to the point where we can finalize this technology for third-party sales. And I think Mike will be explaining this, why we brought it on, how we do a pre-sale marketing campaign for sales. And we want to continue growing a diversified portfolio of what's already been pre-funded that's waiting to settle. So I think these areas, and we're going to talk more, how technology is going to help us attract more affiliated doctors in different specialties, just not in pain. Next slide. Before I have Mike get on to talk on this call, when we first met him, he was telling me about Stryker Corporation in 2006. Unbeknownst to me, I was using Stryker equipment doing arthroscopic surgery. And Stryker is a really smart company, and they knew they wanted to get into the video integration systems. Because if you're ever in an operating room, there's wires everywhere, people everywhere doing various things, and Stryker really brought some sense to how we doctors do certain types of procedures in the operating room and in our clinics. But when you look at Mike's resume, you know, out of 78 reps at Stryker, he was the sole recipient of a marketing award. This guy's really keyed into video management. He spent his whole life here since 2006 in this type of environment for doctors and hospitals. And you look at the bottom, he's worked with surgeons to design over 65 new operating rooms in his territory. That's just his territory, Kansas and Missouri. And Mike has come up with some ideas of who do we approach that understands the kind of technology that we're doing, both for pain, orthopedics, the different things in bariatric, in urology, and so forth. So I'm now going to turn this over to Mike. He's going to tell you about himself and how he looks upon this platform to help develop this country. So it's my pleasure to introduce everyone to Michael Smith.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Michael Smith. Just wanted to touch base a little bit about my background. My primary focus has been, over the past 8 years, in video management systems. The medical application with regard to video as it pertains to surgical. So with that being said, you're taking video from a knee scope or general surgery, and like Dr. Donovan was explaining earlier, you've got cables and cords everywhere. Video integration really cleans that up and allows for better use of those video signals and make the OR flow better. QVH was of immediate interest to me upon meeting Dr. Donovan, and as it applies, it has unique hardware and software to allow for greater documentation of many types of procedures. Yes, it was developed with a specific idea and problem that it was tackling. However, the applications for QVH are really endless. So over the years, we've seen OR design change, and with Halo and how it manages video signal, we're going to see a simplification in the process as well as better documentation for both patients, doctors, as well as from a legal standpoint and a liability standpoint from the hospital. One thing that makes QVH unique is that it's easy to deploy, but it has excellent capabilities. Normally, a system would have to be dramatically larger and much wider in scope in order to handle or have the capabilities of such to really kind of get everything done that needs to be accomplished in the OR. So in the short of things, QVH really manages excellent a broad spectrum of problems with a small package. In a teaching environment, Halo can provide superior access to medical students. One of the areas of medical that is not commonly discussed is in teaching institutions. A lot of the video utilized by medical students, as in residence and fellowship programs, can be made more precise, better managed with more accurate information with great video management documentation.
Next slide.
Yep. Halo, used in the medical surgical field, should not just be limited to spine. As a documentation tool for medical schools, Halo will bring new perspective to surgical residents. Halo is unique among medical devices due to additional benefits to hospitals, doctors, and patients, providing transparency and proven overall over several years used by SPIN and its core PI business. And with that, I'd like to close out. I just wanted to sum up that QVH is an excellent product. It is cutting edge of video integration, as I've seen in the market, and sales of the product should take off once we are exploring other markets.
I would like to take this opportunity now to introduce you to David Spencer. We met David several months ago when we were actually doing a video marketing of part of the Halo. And we got talking, and he understood the opportunity from a management information systems. And so we've been talking now for several months. And David's background is really perfect for what we need. He's a technology consultant who gets his hands on and fixes things. He has a degree in computer science. He's in automation systems. He's in database administration. And he has a company called Spencer Media that's in the litigation support firm. So David understands video, and he understands information systems and how we have to be able to get information quickly, correctly to the people that need it. So it's my pleasure to welcome David Spencer to this call.
Good afternoon, David Spencer here. When I was brought on board to initially take a look at the quad video halo system, I immediately picked up on the multiple applications that could be applied not just in the medical field but also the litigation, and as we all know that those obviously run hand in hand in a lot of circumstances. So with looking at the system and evaluating it, there were a lot of things came to mind to stay close to the core value of the business was to not let the technology drive what we're doing, but allow it to facilitate the things that Apple has prided itself on, end user experience, understanding what the end user is doing in reference to doctors, what this video is, how this video is presented in trial. Connecting all those dots leads us down the road to what is the nucleus. The nucleus is the card itself. It's the VMS system, the video management system. What does it do for us? What does it do for our docs? What does it do for our end user? And so you design a system around that, and that facilitates, you talk about the reliability aspect of it. You certainly don't want a system out there in the middle of a procedure that's going to, obviously cut out on itself. And also there's so many different platforms out there, so having cross-platform integration to be able to plug this thing into multiple environments, i.e. Apple, Microsoft, all of those things where you're not reinventing the wheel for every client that buys our system, but you're already adapting to the platforms that are in existence out in the market today. The next thing with IT is, as we all know, and we call upon our techs all the time, is administering things. How do I do this? How do we do that? So simplifying the administration aspect of it was a very critical component, not just from the spend aspect, but overhead, capital, all those good things come into play. As I've touched on briefly, the video features for our doctors want, things of that nature. That was all about keeping the end user in mind. Also, it's expandable. It expands with their practices. We didn't want to bring in a technology that we were basically reinventing the wheel every time we wanted to send out a new system. This was putting everything in perspective in regards to, again, the end user. Where are we selling this? Where are we placing that? Litigation has different needs, so does the hospital and doctor environment. So it was finding a platform that would actually meet in the middle, and all we're doing is turning off and on features based off of your industry and your use. Remote monitoring, I've touched on that. The big one is SharePoint integration. As everybody knows, we are moving to digital files. We are in the digital world. So by using SharePoint, which is a Microsoft product, we can integrate these files all together from MRIs to videos, archiving. So you're making a digital file for the patient, per se, that carries things into litigation and into the medical world as well. The next thing was to look at the Halo cart from a production standpoint, was to get it cheaper, lighter, and less of a footprint. So we analyzed, bringing the cost down, not as many connections, not as many wires as Mike has touched on, and Dr. Donovan as well. The next thing was to have access to the system. How do we get this out there, and when it is in place, what are we going to throw out there that is different than the competition? And one of the things that distinguishes different is the Halo app. And as an Apple developer, we are developing right now an app that houses, you can download on your Android and your iPhone, for example, or your iPad. You can log in and look at patient records, archived, and also live video feeds. The system is intelligent enough, next slide please. The system is intelligent enough that it will pick up your connection based off of where you are, if you're on Wi-Fi, if you're on cell signal, and it will stream accordingly, kind of the YouTube model. So that's kind of where we're at with that. I'll pass it.
David, thank you very much. And I think what David's been with us to several of the shows and trade shows, and we've been approached by various people in different medical specialties that there is a whole new business or multiple businesses that we hadn't even thought about. We've been approached about tort negligence or tort product liability for video documentation. So I think we have our existing business which we're moving ahead with, and there's new businesses and procedures that we're in discussions with various people. With this improved technology, we're looking and having some very good discussions with new doctor affiliates. Our staff knows that we have to improve the cash flow and then add appropriate staff to help us grow. As the president and CEO, my job is to hire good people, and I want these good people to be growing in their roles and in positions. Next slide. In conclusion, we're providing our affiliate doctors with opportunities to be able to help their patients. And I want to now turn this over to a question and answers. But I really want to thank you for your time and consideration today. I'm excited about what's going on, and having Tim and David and Mike and John here, I think we're putting together a very credible team that we can expand and grow and just move forward. Do we have any questions?
Yes, we do. From Harris Goldman, you have said for the last 2 years that you were aggressively searching for a new CEO for SPIN. Is 2 years enough time for finding a capable individual? While it's encouraging to hear about the HALO system and the excitement reported in a couple of PRs based on the investment already expended, and that's where it ended. So I guess what we're saying here is, are you still going to be searching for a CEO? And I'm not quite sure where that last part went because it just quit on the question.
Well, let me answer it. I'm Bill. We've had discussions and interviews with various people. We haven't found the right person yet. So are we looking? Absolutely. Is there somebody in-house that could do it? Maybe. But, yeah, absolutely we're looking. We've had some lengthy discussions with some people, and we just never got to an agreement on certain issues. But let me tell you, with this new team that we brought on, I'm more excited now than ever.
Next question, again, by Harris Goldman. What happened to the last individual who was a new position of sales and marketing for SPIN announced, I guess, a couple of conference calls ago?
That was actually about a year and a half ago, and he never produced, so he's gone. I think you'll know we've been looking and we've been interviewing people, and I think Mike Smith, you go back to 2006, man, he was right there at the beginning of video integration. So I feel that Mike is someone that can be very, very productive and good for the company. Previous guy didn't work out, so he's no longer involved with the company.
And here is a question from Mike Smith. It says, what makes the Halo unique over competitive products? It seems that was addressed in yesterday's PR, having to do with PI cases. Mike,
if you look at this from a product standpoint, there's really no specific product that directly addresses what we're running into with PI cases. Yes, we are seeing video integration systems out there. However, with regard to recording four types of video sources and in an application that documents those the way that Halo does, there is no direct competition. Yes, you can piece together and do add-ons for other systems. However, with regard to this market, there's nothing as clear and as crisp as Halo. So if I could answer that question right now that we're the only one in the market, I believe I can actually say that. Is there something that you can piece together that would be our competitor? Yes. Would it be as great in a sense of it's right out of the box, ready to go? No. So from a standpoint of our direct competition, we don't have any. And I'm going to hand this back to you, Art. Question.
If I may add, I think since you referred to yesterday's press release, I think he was really referring to the uniqueness of this having a history of legal and evidentiary use, I believe, because I think that was mentioned in the press release.
All right, and you're probably talking about, with regard to systems that have been utilized, Halo really has a track record. So if we were to kind of go over and review and look at the history of video system utilized in PI cases, with a 2-year track history, there's, again, nothing that's really in direct competition with us, out there in the market. We're not seeing anything with a robust 2-year history like Halo.
Let me just add to that. We've been to these trade shows, 4 medical trade shows and 1 legal trade show. So we wanted to get input from the people that we met. And the AAJ, which is a big legal show, was really eye-opening. The people who came by spent on average about 25 minutes with the system. And here's people in the business, and they're telling us they haven't seen anything like this. And I'll tell you what they also want. They want 3D models of the spine from this particular patient. They want to see 3D imaging of the MRI scans. They want everything visually based in one platform. And we're already making some 3D spine models from the MRI. It's the actual spine model of the patient. So I think that people that are in the business are telling us they haven't seen anything like this. But are there some competitors out there we don't know about? Yeah, I'm sure there is somewhere.
Another question for Mike. What do you envision a logical marketing plan being, internal or external reps?
So from looking at a plan of running lean, that is pretty much how I envision running the sales to begin with. I'm not a huge advocate of spending money to make money. I look at this as going from a route of who's already in this market, who's already tackling surgeons, direct contacts in this area. And so I have a group of sales reps that are operating from a distributor base. There is presently north of 200 in North America, and they're already calling on people in this realm. And so what what sales reps really appreciate is staying in their same wheelhouse for making calls, talking to the same people that they typically talk to. But what they really like is something new, something exciting in the market, and something that we haven't seen out there at all. There's nothing out there that compares to Halo. So if you're asking me how I'm going to go about marketing this, selling it, and getting the market excited about it, number one, I'm going to talk to the sales reps who are already selling products in this area. Number two, this is a product that is directly a complement to what they're already selling. And number three, I'm getting sales reps that are already selling something of this magnitude financially. So if someone's out there and they're selling spinal injections, or they're selling some type of syringe, but they're in our area, that's great, but they're not really going to help us. So we have to look at something that is selling in the specific dollar range that Halo would be. So with all those things being said, we're going to sell it through people that are selling in this market already, people that are already selling something of this magnitude, and people who have long-term connections in this area. And that's the answer to my question.
Okay, next question, again from Harris Goldman. We've been hearing about core expansion for quite a while. Why haven't there been any expansions outside of Texas? What appears to be the problem?
Yeah, this is Dr. Bill. We've been talking to people in other states, and we've been very careful about how we manage our money and how we expand. And I'm glad we didn't rush to other states quickly, because we made changes in Florida and in McAllen. We've had ongoing talks with people in other states, and I wouldn't be surprised that we'll be in other states, hopefully soon.
Okay, from Mark Robbins. I missed the introduction, so would you please help me understand the timeline for Halo, when it will be fully developed for the market, sold, and etc.?
The Halo is still in development in different aspects. The FDA has recently come out with some new guidelines, and they understand that in medicine, a lot of the rapid growth is with software and affiliated hardware, and they're pulling back downwards some of the requirements. We thought that we were going to be listed as such and such a level, but it appears that we will be considered a surgical camera and accessory. This gives us a much better focus, and we're in contact with our FDA attorney in Washington about this. The second thing is, with what David has done, we now are moving on to the appropriate testing that's necessary, which shouldn't take very long. Mike tells us that we need to have a pre-selling program, because he's targeted reps that sell equipment, from pieces of equipment from $50,000 to $400,000. People that work in an arena, and they stay in that wheelhouse. So I think we're going to have more to give time frames, but we're moving ahead to make it better, simpler, lighter, and build in the appropriate marketing people.
Can you describe how the Halo might provide a recurring revenue stream? That's from Herb Berman.
Well, it is now. I mean, it is with the leases, the people that are using it are paying us a lease, it's going to attract new types of services. Biologics is going to be a big part of development here. There's other areas. So I think this is going to be some recurrent, and I want Mike to add to this.
If we can look at Halo as both a hardware and software application, as I spoke to earlier, we can apply this to teaching institutions that would basically purchase an educational software program for their students to utilize. This would in turn create a reoccurring revenue stream for a piece of capital equipment. Typically, when you're selling a piece of capital equipment and the sales rep is out there selling it, let's say they're selling a C-arm. Yes, they sell the C-arm, and then they have to wait for that C-arm to go obsolete. With regard to Halo, we're looking at software development that can bump up against the Halo product, but then that software would be part of a reoccurring revenue stream for both educational institutions as well as other facilities that basically would almost help us develop it. It's based upon what their needs are. But each device would then have to be updated. Each device would have to be utilized.
And to back up what Mike's saying is that when we move into the software arena, we can now module-based components. That way we can break out services and revenue streams, and then also what that also does is branch us into other areas. To back up a little bit, think of the VMS system as a layered application. When you think of a video, it's more of what you see is what you get. The new VMS system is layered in a sense that it can apply in different applications, but it also blends with the overall goal in mind, and that is are we trying to win a case here? Are we trying to prove that the doctor did a good procedure and the patient has actually been injured? That applies in the litigation world. Then we can take the MRIs, 3D print them. We can show the video documentation for the trial lawyers. So it's a bundled package, but we can also break them out into modules for additional revenue streams for support and upgrades as well. So I'll pass it on.
Let me add to this. These trade shows, we've learned a lot. When we went there, we wanted to introduce Halo, but let me tell you to give you some examples. We had a bariatric surgeon come up, and he says, God, this is terrific. And I said, but you're in bariatrics. He said, well, let me tell you where our problem areas are. We do a lap band or a bypass, whatever, on Joe Smith. Well, Joe Smith goes home, and 2 months later, he shows up in the emergency room. Well, Joe Smith has gone to Kentucky Fried Chicken and eaten 20 pieces of chicken, and it's in his stomach. He's in the emergency room now, sicker than a dog. They have to document this. And I never thought of it. And the guy says, we want to be able to document exactly what's going on from a liability standpoint from the doctor. We had the same thing with ENT. We have doctors, urologists in prostates. They're doing stuff now. They're using C-arms in certain types of treatment, and they want to document all this. So I think there's going to be a lot of recurrent revenues and new revenues once we can present this to the right salespeople dealing in the right different parts of medicine.
This is Mike again. I just wanted to touch base on this. If Halo is tracking 4 video feeds, and I believe that it can actually track more, if we're tracking 4 video feeds as Halo stands now, in a bariatric procedure, you might utilize a C-arm. You might look at the patient's hemodynamics, meaning their blood pressure, heart rate, body temp, all of those things being documented in a case where the patient overate after a procedure. All of those things become relevant with regard to the hospital's liability, the physician's liability, because when these things occur, I try not to be fooled. The patients typically blame the surgeons that the procedure wasn't done right. So what happens is you default back to the documentation that they are removing X number of pieces of chicken from the patient's stomach. And again, all we are doing is documenting the procedure via the video signals to tell a story later on. Thank you.
Another question for Mike. What do you estimate the size of the market, the MSRP, and are there different costs for different versions of the Halo? That was for Mike.
Okay,
that was for Mike anyway.
Mike, so the size of the market when we're talking about this, really, since coming on the team, what I'm looking at is all of the markets that we could tap into. So if a company can sell, an existing company can sell $60 million worth of video equipment, I would say with a brand new product just hitting the market, my expectations would be pretty high. With regard to units, I think north of 200. The number of units I'm estimating is high, and so that's really all I'm going to say about that. I think that we are reaching a point where we're finding about all the markets we can tap into, how we're going to go about that, and how we're going to develop the software as well as refine the hardware to tackle that.
I think there was a couple of other parts, the estimated MSRP, and are there going to be different versions? For Mike, that was parts in question.
So yes, there are going to be different versions. We are going to see different versions of software. We're going to see different versions of hardware. There is going to be what is a base model. As far as MSRP, I'd love to relate numbers. I'm still kind of going through some product refinements to kind of find the sweet spot. So at this point, I'd rather not elaborate on the MSRP.
Okay. Let's see. I guess a question back to Dr. Donovan. What does the cash outlook look like for forward growth in the core business?
I think it's pretty good because we're talking with some additional affiliates right now. We're planning to move ahead. And it's, I think we'll be able to elaborate on that more over the next month or so.
And this looks like the last question for David. Any idea when a version will be ready to be marketed?
We have finished up all of our initial testings. We are going live with it with 5 of our units with all the new system rolled out at the end of August. Based on the FDA and the UL findings of the new system that has a smaller footprint, that is really going to be our trigger point right there, is once we get the UL and FDA updates on our certification of the new equipment, that will give us a target as to when we're going to be able to get out on the market.
Any last questions? You've got about 10 seconds to ask them. And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I guess that's all we had. Well, thank you very much for joining us. And
let me. This is Bill. I just wanted to wrap up a couple things. Number one, I appreciate everybody's time. Number two, our newest market, we started in June, and there's already been 3 cases settled. So I think that in certain markets, the QVH can have a significant impact. So I think that the future looks very bright, and I'm really excited about this because Tim and John and now Mike and David, man, this is an infusion of energy that just, it's so exciting. And we went to 5 trade shows this year, and we've learned so much about the market. What do they want? How do they want it delivered? And so on and so forth. So we're coming up with a variety of packages to present. And there's a lot of new markets. Boy, I tell you, and these are markets I had never thought about. The product liability in orthopedics alone, with the hips and the knees that have to be replaced. We're being approached. Can we develop programs for that? There's just a lot of new things, and this is why we needed improved technology, improved sales, improved infrastructure. And with this, I think things are going to look bright for this young company. But I want to thank everyone for taking time.
Thank you. See you all in 3 months.
Have a great day.
Over.
Thank you.
That was an hour and it was 55 minutes. 55 minutes, yeah.